Good afternoon. My name is Giovanni Cortez, and today I'll be presenting the New York Times bestseller book Wild, written by Cheryl Strayed. In the book, Cheryl mentions how at one point in her life she was at her lowest moment. She mentions how she has fallen into a barely manageable heroin addiction, a disastrous new relationship, and a pattern of self destructive mistakes. In addition, with the grief and aftermath of losing her mother and terminating her marriage, Cheryl decides to go on a life-changing experience by taking the spontaneous decision to go hiking by herself on the Pacific Crest Trail from Mojave Desert through California and Oregon to Washington State. She takes the decision in order to look for redemption in her past mistakes and to become the woman she was destined to become. Throughout the book, Cheryl discusses that the hike was a tool that she is using in order to redeem herself for her past mistakes. However, she later realizes that her mistakes serve as the foundation in order for people to build their lives, and instead that she needs to experience a healing process in order to accept herself and her past mistakes. A quote that is mentioned that goes along with this concept is, "There are so many amazing other things in this world. They opened up inside me like a river. Like I didn't know I could take a breath, and then I breathed. I laughed with the joy of it, and the next moment I was crying. My first tears on the Pacific Crest Trail. I cried and I cried and I cried. I wasn't crying because I was happy. I wasn't crying because I was sad. I wasn't crying because of my mother or my father or Paul. I was crying because I was full." Page 234, chapter 14. Sheila stated in her memoir that she expected her journey on the Pacific Crest Trail to be full of relieving moments of sadness, restoring times of happiness, and relentless emotional onslaught that would heal her and redeem her for her past mistakes. However, throughout the entire trail, Cheryl has not wept a single time until now. Before arriving in Oregon, Cheryl was enjoying her final days of hiking across California, experiencing a sense of accomplishment and arrival. She enjoys the gorgeous and ever-changing landscape. She befriends hikers, campers, and scouts who make her feel encouraged and guided her along the way, and has had multiple experiences with spectacular creatures such as black bears and deers, which are the first time she has seen some. Moreover, Cheryl, overwhelmed by all the unexpected things her journey has brought her, finally lets out a healing cry that she has envisioned all along throughout her journey. Cheryl, on the other hand, she wasn't letting go of hatred or despair. She was just simply achieving a place full of fullness and satisfaction that allows for her emotions to float out and come out. At the end, these experiences Cheryl encountered helped her grow as a human being and let her realize that she did not need redemption. Instead, she needed to experience a healing process, and she did that by letting all her emotions go and by crying for the first time in the Pacific Crest Trail. Another main point that is discussed throughout the book is loss and grief. In the book, Cheryl mentions that her mother passed away at the age of 45. Cheryl did not only lose her mother, but slowly, little by little, she began to lose her family too. As Cheryl's family grows more and more distant in the wake of the Cheryl loss, Cheryl begins to believe that's what loss simply does. It separates and alienates individuals at a time when they should be joining together and simply enjoying life. However, throughout her journey in the Pacific Crest Trail, Cheryl meets new people such as Lou that would change her perspective about loss and grief. In page 186, chapter 11, Cheryl writes in conversation that she had with Lou, "I look the same, but I'm not the same. In here, I mean, life goes on and all that crap, but Luke dying out of me, I try not to act like it, but it did. It took the Lou out of the Lou, and I ain't getting it back. You know what I mean?" "I do," I said, looking into her hazel eyes. "I thought so," she said. "I had that feeling about you." To begin with, Cheryl rides with a lady called Lou and her husband Spider. When Cheryl inquires about a picture of a little boy hanging from the car rearview mirror, Lou confesses that the portrait is of her son, a little kid who died in a vehicle accident years ago. Cheryl and Lou spend a time having a conversation at a rest break as they contemplate Luke's loss and Cheryl's as well. Cheryl has seen a side of Lou that knows joy and allows herself to feel love, despite the fact of her son's death. This passage depicts the duality of grief and loss, which never goes away. However, it may overwhelm some of us and it can take one's life. However, it does not have to destroy all prospects of joy. Cheryl is learning that, through her mother's death, will never be forgotten. It does not have to be the defining moments of her life. She may acknowledge that the loss altered her without committing her life to continual mourning. and without shutting herself off from joy and from everyone else. Cheryl learns throughout her journey that grief has the power to tear people apart, but it can also astonishingly accomplish the opposite and bring people together and bring them joy in difficult times. At the end, Cheryl grew as an individual throughout her journey in the Pacific Crest Trail by meeting new people and experiencing new events that would change her life. To conclude, this book can help other individuals by letting them know that their past mistakes or action should not define who you are. It can help individuals to begin their healing process that they might need in order to accept themselves. It can also help individuals to learn that grief and loss does not have to be the defining moment in their lives. It should be one of those moments that can connect you to other people and bring you joy in some of the darkest, difficult times in your life.